What is White Whale? What are liquidity bootstrapping pools? And how can you get your hands on Whale at almost no cost? Well, we're going to be discussing that in this video today. So for starters, welcome to Crypto Saver. Let's do a quick overview on White Whale and why I think it's one of the most important projects on Terra. So White Whale is a platform where people like myself and you can go on and participate in helping UST hold its peg against the dollar. Now, why that's so important, especially to Terra, is because as investors of Luna, we want to see UST become more and more popular and more people to be using UST. And for that to happen, we have to prove to other people that, hey, UST is a very stable coin. Now, early this year, that wasn't the case. Let's take a quick look and see what happened with UST about 6 months ago. So during the big crash in May, when Luna dropped as much as 80%, we saw UST actually coming down. I mean, these are the daily closes here, but we can see on May 9, UST managed to drop down to 0.85. Now, that's not good. That's not good for a stablecoin because people need stablecoins. Most need stablecoins when things are crashing, right? When people are panicking, if people are selling, if people want to go into a stable coin, it's usually done when the market is extremely volatile and there is panic everywhere. While if the stable coin is failing during those moments, it's fair to say that cannot really be a strong stable coin. It's not that impressive when a stable coin holds its peg when things are lofty and the overall market is bullish. That's not so impressive. It's impressive, on the other hand, if it holds its peg, if let's say Bitcoin drops 50% overnight, right? So with the introduction of White Whale, it's going to allow so many more people to get involved in holding that peg that moving forward, we really should not see it deviating away from that $1 peg that it should always stay at. So not only do you benefit from essentially helping the Terra ecosystem and also maybe helping your Luna holdings, you're also going to be able to actually earn a higher yield while doing so. So the amazing thing is, when you will eventually be able to deposit your money into White Whale, if your funds are not being used to hold the peg in that moment, it's actually going to be held with an anchor, which means you will be earning an anchor yield of 19.5%. So in general, your yield from White Whale will actually be greater than the yield you would receive from Anchor, which is considered to be a relatively risk-free yield. Now, in the recent AMA, they have said that don't expect the APYs to be that much greater than what Anchor is offering you. One of the founding members mentioned that you can expect the APYs to be a few percentages above, right? So once they launch and a lot of people hop in, maybe you'll see an APY of about 21, 22%. So nothing too crazy, but still you get a few extra percentages, plus you're helping the ecosystem altogether while doing so. But what's the fuss about the LBP, liquidity bootstrapping pools? Why are people talking about it? Why is it so major? Well, for that, we have to first understand the flaws in a typical liquidity pool. So usually when a project launches, the founders have to create a liquidity pool where people can come in and start buying their tokens that they're releasing. And the constant issue is the size of that liquidity pool is never large enough to handle all the demand for their token out of the gate. So what typically happens is a project launches their token, there's a liquidity pool set up, bots come in right away and they start snatching up these tokens at low values. And while they're doing so, they're taking all these tokens out of the liquidity pool. Now, granted, as the way LPs work, as the tokens are being removed out of the pool, the tokens that remain in the pool are worth that much more. So these bots benefit from the cheap tokens while reducing the amount of tokens within that pool. And when regular folks like us want to come in and actually buy that token, we're buying it at a much higher inflated price since these bots were able to take out so much of that supply from the liquidity pool. So since we've seen that there's an inherent flaw in launching a token on a typical liquidity pool, things have begun to migrate. Well, this is the first time within Terra that we've migrated over to a liquidity bootstrap pool. And the idea behind it is that we no longer, well, the project no longer has to look to have a 50-50 pool that you typically would need to have, which would require a lot of capital on the UST side. Instead, what White Whale did, they basically started off with a 99% and a 1% ratio. And now, over the next 72 hours, the event began overnight. Over the next 72 hours, every few seconds, basically, more and more whale tokens are being released into circulation. Naturally, that is going to obviously provide a lot of downward pressure. But what it does combat bots who will attempt to basically buy in right away. Because even though they're able to buy in, the amount of supply that's constantly being given in over these 72 hours will inevitably bring the price of the token down, which it has. And we can take a quick look at the charts right now. So as we look at the chart, we can kind of see when the pool began, there was an initial spike. Again, it could be from the bots. It could also be from people that don't quite understand what a liquidity bootstrapping pool is. They bought in right away. There was enough demand versus the amount of supply that was coming out in those moments to kind of push it above 1.10. But inevitably, once that demand started to lessen and the supply just kept coming in, the price started to fall. And as we look here, it took a while. It took over 6 hours. Now we're at 8 hours. It took 9 hours. Yeah, about eight to 9 hours before finally we started seeing buyers come in. And this would be referred to as an attempt of price discovery, right? We're trying to figure out what is the right price for a whale token. And right now, as we kind of pull out, we can kind of see that we're hanging at around 22 cents. Now, if we look at the actual interface for White Whale here, so you can see the drop here. And you can see there's still 88 million coins remaining. I believe they plan on releasing enough coins until they have about 20 million coins left. You can kind of see the weight here at 18 to 82. So the weight right now is currently 18, would refer to the UST side, and then the whale side. They're waiting to the point that it gets to 80-20. And that would occur after 72 hours. So there's still a lot of time to go into this event. Now, White Whale is using the technology that was provided by Astroport. They're the ones who built out the liquidity bootstrapping pool code. So when we look at their Medium page right now, there's an example here of, so we can look at this chart right here. I'll just blow this up. If there wasn't any activity, if there was never anyone buying or selling during this this event right now, over 72 hours. So if the price of this token began at 1.6, you can kind of see how it comes down towards the end of the event. Supply keeps coming in, and inevitably the price of the token just continues to drop over that time. Now, since we do know that there will be buyers coming in and also additional sellers, because you can't sell the whale token that you currently bought already during this event, the chart's going to look a little bit different. So here's an example of a token that was launched on the Ethereum network that utilized the same type of pool here. And we could also see here initial pop, again, from bots or people not quite aware of how the pool works. And then we saw it come down severely. And then after that time, it kind of stayed sideways and blew up and kept going up. So the reason why I mention this is that it's incredibly difficult to tell when you should be buying in. It's easy to look at this and say, well, there's going to be so much more supply hitting the market right now. It has to go down, and sure, that makes sense. But at some point, the buying pressure could be enough to sustain all that supply hitting the market. And once White Whale is able to basically get through these 72 hours and they have all this UST and they have the leftover whale tokens, then they will take that and place it into a liquidity pool within Terraswap, and that will serve as a liquidity pool moving forward. Basically going around the whole issue that typically the liquidity pool that projects have when they start out are way too small and that leads to these crazy pumps and dumps of their coin. Well, this time around, they're basically able to take it a step back and create this massive pool that's going to help stabilize the price of their coin once it's within Terraswap. Now, if you plan to be buying this during this event of 72 hours, most people are recommending that you DCA in, right? So dollar cost average. It's going to be impossible to predict what the bottom is going to be or what the tops are going to be. It really just comes down to what the demand of the market's going to be over the next, well, at this point, let's say over the next 60 hours or so. Best thing to do if you have, let's say, 500 UST that you want to delegate towards purchasing whale tokens, maybe every 6 hours, buy 100 USD worth of it at different price points. So far, I've purchased 1,000 UST of Whale at a price of around, I believe, about 28 cents. So yes, Whale is currently trading below that. So you can kind of say I'm underwater on that. We can kind of come back to the charts here and see that, yes, we're currently trading at around 22 cents. And again, like, I wouldn't be surprised that overnight, when there's less people just online to buy and all of that, the price can definitely fall down, right? If all the buyers are essentially sleeping, if there's just no buyer demand from them, we can definitely see price come down. So again, in the 72 hours, there's going to be just so much supply coming in that we're going to see price just being so volatile during this time period. Now, what I want to do is kind of try to compare a few market caps, right? So as it stands during this liquidity bootstrapping pool, they plan on releasing 100,000. Well, they plan on releasing 80,000 tokens to us. We end up buying, but the circulating supply will be at around 100 million. But the diluted market cap is at, well, diluted count of how many whale tokens will ever exist will be 1 billion whale tokens. Now, what I like to do, I like to compare that to other projects within the Terra system to gauge how big Whale is already at this price. So on CoinGecko, if we look at the Mirror protocol, we can see that the fully diluted valuation is at nearly $1.5 billion. Now, we can easily run the math right now. If there's going to be 1 billion Whale tokens out, and let's say you purchase Whale right now at 20 cents, that would mean that the fully diluted market cap of Whale at that moment would be about 200 million. Now, that is one of the numbers I used when I decided to buy Whale, or to start buying Whale at 0.28, because it does seem fairly fair once you compare that to Mirror. If we take a look at Anchor, for example, Anchor has a fully diluted market cap at 3.4 billion. Now, there was a member in my chat who wasn't the biggest fan of me using the fully diluted market cap to figure out. He prefers looking at the circulating supply, so how many tokens are out there right now as a market cap. And again, since we know that right this moment, the circulating supply of Whale is at around 100,000, that would place the market cap at around, say, about 20, well, if it's at, let's say it's about at 22 cents right now, the price per Whale, that would put the circulating supply market cap at around 220 million. If we look at another platform, I made a few videos about them, by the way, Kujira, right? So if we look at their token, for example, right now, their circulating supply, their market cap is around 23 million. So in his defense, he's basically saying, well, Kujira has a product that is successful. People are currently using it. The market cap right now for is it at 23 million. So if you're buying Whale at 28 cents a piece right now, then the current circulating supply, the market cap will be placed at around 28 million, which may seem overvalued for some people. So I guess the overall idea is it's very difficult to tell what is the right price to pay for Whale. All we know of right now is that for the next 50 hours or so, it's going to be a lot of supply hitting the market, and the prices can continue to come down. Now, unlike stocks, where we can look at their balance sheet, we could also look at what their revenues are, their growth rates, their margins, and figure out what their free cash flows might be in the future. We don't have these numbers when it comes to these cryptos, right? So we can't really understand what should the price be. The best thing we can kind of do is compare it to other projects that have X and X market cap, whether it's a diluted market cap or a circulating supply market cap, and figure out, well, if we compare this and that, it should be priced at this. That's kind of the best that we can get at. In general, I would say if you can buy Whale in the teens, it does seem like a great buy at that point. I think me buying at 28 cents is not the worst thing to have done, because again, from a diluted market cap, it is a bit more forward thinking that I do believe that once Whale launches in the next month or two, it will be successful, that what they promise to us and how their platform will work, it will work in such a way and that it will be an integral part of the Terra community. And if all those things kind of hit the list, then I can definitely see its market cap going to $1 billion in terms of a fully diluted market cap. And a few quick things, if you're going to be buying, keep in mind there is a 2.5% fee for buying from the platform right now. So make sure you account for that when you are buying. And on top of that, when you are buying, one thing I want to show you guys, make sure that you're not too stingy on what the slippage is. If you put a 1% slippage, there's a good chance it's going to fail. Be a bit more lenient, go to 2, 3, 4%, because if the transaction does fail, you will end up paying a fee for the failure. As we can see here with my Terra Station history here, when I attempted to run the first transaction through at a 1% slippage, it failed and it cost me 1.4 USD for the failure. And then I adjusted it and I paid the fee once again. So keep that in mind. Be a bit more lenient on the slippage when you're placing your orders right now. A final thing I want to touch on, which I kind of brought up in the introduction, if you want to get your hands on Whale and just unsure of when you should be buying it, then you should really take a look at the platform Pylon. So on Pylon, what happens here is that you would deposit UST directly onto their platform. So let's say we put 100 here, right? And you select one of these 3 pools over here. Each of them have different vesting periods. We can take a look at the 12-month vesting period here. Now, I suggest ignoring the APR for the time being here. And let's click on deposit via Pylon. So we wait here, and you can kind of see the estimate right now that if we go into this pool, we would receive 226 Whale. Now, it's important to understand that number will change by the time you get your hands on any Whale. With any of these pools, you will have to wait till the halfway period before you're able to withdraw any of your rewards. But towards the end of the period, so if you go for the pool 2, which is a 1-year period, at the end of the year, you will withdraw your whole UST. So that money is never lost. You simply get your UST back. But halfway through that period, you're able to actually start withdrawing the rewards. In this case, it would be the total rewards that we would receive would be 226, and that would be divided across the 6 months beforehand. Since it's a 1-year pool, halfway behind that, so we have 6 months now, and those Whale tokens will be given out during those 6 months. A few things to keep in mind though. The more UST that's being deposited into these pools, the less Whale tokens you would receive, because there is a total distribution overall for the platform plus for each pool. So in pool 2, as we can see here, 670,000 tokens have been distributed from 12.5 million. So as there is, well, more importantly, is the deposit figure right here. As the deposit figure rises more and more, there's going to be less Whale tokens being given out to everyone. It just gets split up more, as you typically would expect in the liquidity pool when it comes to APYs. So it does make it difficult to understand just how much you end up making from it. We'll just click on it again and just do the math here. And we'll make a few assumptions here, right? So imagine in a vacuum, no one else deposited any more USD into this pool, right? And we were able to receive 206 Whale tokens. On top of that, imagine once we're getting all these Whale tokens, Whale is trading at a price of 0.5, right? So 50 cents. Let's multiply that against 50 cents, and we can see that for 100 UST, we would receive $113 worth of Whale. Now, again, we do get our UST back, so that is not lost. This is just additional gain. So basically, our APY would be 113%. But that is if no one else deposits more UST into the pool, because if they do, you will get less Whale. And that is if the Whale price at that point in the future is that price. But in general, this is still a pretty good way to get your hands on Whale tokens, because the only loss here is your opportunity cost. The best way to compare this to is, what if I took this 100 UST and I deposited it into Anchor for a 19.5% yield? In that case, you'd earn $19.5. Well, if you put money into one of these pools here, and let's say 6 months down the line, a year down the line, you don't really receive that many Whale tokens, and or those Whale tokens are worth so little each, then maybe your APY would actually be, maybe you'd only make $10, maybe you would only receive $10 worth of Whale tokens at the end of all this. And in that case, obviously, your money would have been much better spent at Anchor. On top of that, you also have the downside in the fact that you cannot really do anything with these tokens. So in this pool, that is for 1 year, you kind of have to sit on your hands. You're not going to see a single Whale token coming away for at least 6 months. We do have a pool. If we go to pool 3 here, it's a much smaller vesting period here. 6 months, you get your UST back, but after month 3, you start receiving some. Obviously, if you go for the shorter pools, you will have less whale being given to you just in general compared to the pools that require a longer vesting period. The last thing I want to bring up in terms of just insiders and how much they hold. So for private investors, they will not be able to access any of their tokens for 12 months. And then their tokens vest for the following 24 months. So they will receive a little bit at a time over the course of 24 months. And then for the actual team leaders, all their tokens are locked up also for 12 months. But then the rest of them vest over 36 months. So they would receive portions over the course of 36 months. And this is important to know because once investors have access to your tokens and team and project owners have access to your tokens, naturally they will look to kind of cash in a bit and start selling. And once we see that increase in circulating supply, it's going to bring down the price of the token. So it is kind of nice to see that anyone kind of involved that had a chance to get these tokens for incredibly cheap, obviously from the get-go, they're kind of locked up for the time being. Now, if you enjoyed this quick rundown on what White Whale is and what's happening with the liquidity bootstrapping today, and even how you can kind of use Pylon to get your hands in it with minimum risk, give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Sometimes comments get automatically deleted by YouTube, by the way. So if it does get deleted, please resend it and just maybe change a few words because they kind of flag things randomly. And if you like content about Terra, then feel free to subscribe. And you can also join my Discord. It's perfectly free. Other than that, thank you for listening and have a great day.